We're turning now to breaking developments in the investigation surrounding last weekend's deadly shooting at Brown University. NBC News has learned from multiple senior law enforcement sources that investigators have now identified a potential person of interest. At the same time, officials are examining whether that attack may be connected to a separate killing in the Boston area, the fatal shooting of an MIT professor inside his home earlier this week. Authorities are actively assessing any possible links between the two cases. The Brown University shooting occurred 2 days before the MIT killing, when a gunman opened fire inside an academic building, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others. Joining us now with the latest is NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, along with NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh. Thank you both for being here. Tom, let me begin with you. What new information are you learning from your sources tonight?
Thanks, Kristen. According to law enforcement officials in New England, investigators are now actively focused on a possible person of interest in the Brown University shooting. As NBC News has reported, authorities are also working to determine whether there is any connection between the Brown attack and the killing of the MIT professor. That question has become a major focus of the investigation over the last 24 hours. This case has moved very quickly, particularly within the last 18 hours. Investigators are now reviewing evidence, tracking leads, and verifying information as they work to determine whether this individual could be responsible. It's important to note, however, that earlier leads in this case did not pan out. Several individuals were investigated, including a person taken into custody briefly over the weekend, but those leads were later ruled out. This latest person of interest is different. Law enforcement believes this individual warrants deeper scrutiny, and they are currently working to corroborate evidence tied to the Brown shooting. Tom, do authorities expect to speak publicly about this development today? Officials in Providence have indicated they are hoping to hold a press briefing later today, but at this point, the timing remains uncertain. Things are moving quickly, and investigators are still working through critical details before making any formal statements. Before we bring in Jim, Tom, give us a bit more context on the MIT case. What do we know so far about that victim and the circumstances of his death? Details remain limited, but we do know that law enforcement has circulated information internally regarding a piece of evidence connected to the MIT professor's killing. The victim was a highly respected researcher specializing in nuclear fusion and plasma physics, advanced scientific fields not associated with nuclear weapons. His work placed him among the top minds in his discipline. Initially, authorities said they saw no clear link between his death and the Brown shooting. However, over the past day, investigators have identified factors that prompted them to re-examine whether the two incidents could be related. At this point, that connection remains under investigation. Let's bring in Jim Kavanaugh now. Jim, how significant is it that investigators are identifying a person of interest nearly a week into this case? Kristen, in large-scale investigations like this, it's very common for numerous people of interest to surface early on. As Tom mentioned, investigators must check out each lead, even if only a few elements seem to match. Take the individual questioned over the weekend. He had firearms and was near Brown University. That alone requires police attention. But investigators then rely on forensic evidence, ballistic comparisons, surveillance footage, and cell phone data to either confirm or eliminate that person. That process allows law enforcement to rule people out quickly and stay focused on viable leads. Now, once the MIT professor was killed, it would be standard procedure for Massachusetts investigators to coordinate immediately with Providence authorities. They would look at bullet calibers, forensic markings, and any available video evidence to determine if there's a ballistic or visual match. And Jim, while there are similarities, there are also differences between the two crimes. Exactly. While both involve gun violence and occurred within roughly 50 miles of each other, one was a mass shooting on a university campus, and the other was a targeted killing inside a private residence. Experienced investigators are careful not to jump to conclusions. They rely on verified facts, not assumptions. If the cases are connected, it opens up additional investigative paths. If they're not, authorities will continue pursuing each case independently. What's important now is that law enforcement has a joint command operation fully established. That didn't happen immediately because of the chaos following the Brown shooting, but it's in place now, and that's a critical step forward. Jim, one final question. Does the earlier detention and release of a person of interest slow down the investigation? Not necessarily. In major cases, investigators often evaluate many potential suspects before finding the right one. That's part of doing the job thoroughly. Experienced commanders understand this process. They don't get tunnel vision. Their goal is to disprove a suspect's involvement as quickly as possible so they can move on. From what we're seeing now, authorities are more organized, more focused, and in a stronger position to move forward. Tom, finally, what will you be watching for in the next several hours? Kristen, I need to be careful here. This is an extremely sensitive and active investigation. There are developments behind the scenes that could have serious implications. If this individual is responsible for the Brown University shooting, and possibly the MIT professor's killing, we're talking about someone who poses a significant danger. For that reason, I'm going to limit what I say publicly at this point to avoid jeopardizing the investigation. Understood. Tom Winter and Jim Kavanaugh, thank you both for your insights. And thank you for watching. For continuing updates on this breaking story and other major headlines, download the NBC News app or watch us live on our YouTube channel.